Okay, Dale, you're recording and streaming. You're all set.
Excellent. Good evening, everyone. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
Hello, Dale.
Hi. Good to see you all. Welcome to our April 14th, 2021 NISC Unit Task Force on Racial Equity and Justice Task meeting. At this time, I'm calling the meeting to order and we'll proceed with a roll call of all individuals present. I'll note that our secretary, John Lemmerling, we won't see him. He's currently at a Black Lives Matter protest, and he will not be able to visually be present, but he is present for the purpose of a quorum and also to take notes and acknowledge what's going on. So at this time, I'll proceed with the roll call. Angela Antikowski.
Here.
Arinka Abad.
Here.
David Amadeo.
Here.
Elizabeth Paul.
Here.
Dr. Hayward Horton.
Here.
Dr. Jamie Puccioni.
Here.
Jillian Moe.
Here.
John Leslie.
I'm here.
Lisa Stevens. Oh, I'm sorry. Pretty Irani.
I'm here.
Sandra Griffin.
Here. Sandra's here.
I'll note that I received an email today from Alan Gadsden. He will not be present today, and he's not present at this time. I've also advised the task force that Devin Wimbley also has resigned from the task force, and so we do not expect him to be present. Give me 1 minute, and I'll go through my additional names. Also, Kataki Badhanker K, our communications leader, has indicated that she may be late, and I don't see her name at this time. So at this time, we'll just mark her as not present, and when she arrives, we will note her presence. Larry Ritter. I don't see Larry's name on the participants list, and I didn't receive any information from him. At this time, we will mark him non-present. That completes the roll call at this time. And we will move on to the rest of the agenda for tonight's meeting. The minutes for the March 10th, 2021 meeting was submitted to all persons on the task force by email. At this time, I'll open the floor if there are any comments or questions that wish to be asked. You can indicate so by just pressing the raise your hand icon or just letting me know by voice, and we'll give you the floor. John Lemmerling has raised his hand. John?
I'm sorry, I was just voting for the minutes, but also just apologizing in advance if I'm not on the call when you get to my working group update. I'll prepare and present that in the minutes. Thank you, Dale.
Thank you, John. Having no other comments, I'll move to approve the March 10th, 2021 minutes. Do I have anyone to second my motion? Thank you, Liz. The motion is seconded by Elizabeth Paul. And I'll just move through my list again and ask whether or not you're voting for the approval or against the approval or abstaining. Angela Antonkowski,
Approve.
Arinka Abad,
Approve.
thank you. David Amadeo,
Approved.
Elizabeth Paul,
Approved.
Dr. Derek Hayward Horton,
Approved.
Dr. Jamie Puccioni.
Approve.
I'm just going to circle back. Angela, I apologize. You two are Dr. Antonkowski, so I apologize for missing that not once, but twice.
Thank you, Dale.
Jillian Margolis.
Approved.
John has already indicated, so I will skip his name, that he wishes to approve the minutes, absent any objections. Pretty Irani
Approve.
and Sandra Griffin.
Approved.
Thank you. We have a quorum present. I too vote to approve the minutes, and the minutes have been approved by quorum. So we will move on to the next order. The next item on our agenda is a brief reminder from the leadership group. We received some information from the town that requests had been made for town information, which is great. However, we do have a process within the within our task force where we filter all requests through Kay. And Kay has been keeping a log of what we've requested so that that information can be dispersed across work groups. And also we can rule out or prevent redundancy by having a centralized stream of information that's requested. And so I just ask all persons on the task force to remember that we do have a process. And when the work groups request information, please contact the leadership group and we'll make sure that that information is requested, and just so that we can all work together and have this done in a fashion and mostly prevent redundancy and just have a contact point with the town. I'm going to open the floor and ask if anyone has any questions, concerns, comments regarding this procedure.
Hi, Dale. This is Kay. I just joined. Sorry, everyone. I'm late.
Oh, great, Kay. We expected that you would be a little late, so fantastic. Is there anything that you want to add with respect to the request for town information procedure?
I heard the last part as I was joining in, and I think you covered everything. Just one more point, that the request, whether it goes through me or whether it goes through a member of the leadership team, have to go to the town attorney, because Paul and his team have to approve what gets shared with the task force in terms of documents and materials that we request.
Okay, thank you, Kay. I see no hands raised. Oh, Liz. Okay, great.
Oh, okay. I I don't have to apologize, but the person, when we had the working group met, and one of my coworkers asked me to reach out, so that's what I reached out to Lisa. But she was very rude to me, and she asked me why I'm asking her, why can't someone so and so can reach out to her. So I didn't expect that kind of reaction from them. That means that shows that they are not respecting me as a member of the task force. Again, they expressed my accent. I joined as an Indian into this group. I told you from the first beginning, I have an accent, and English is not my language. I know 3 or 4 or 5 languages, but it's not that point. So that's what I reach out to them, but they didn't. This is a racial equity forum, so they shouldn't be questioning me. They have the right, but I was not jeopardizing their programs, only reaching out for some informations. So she asked me why so. She was talking to me like half an hour. Then I saw Kay's reply to you. Maybe it's my old norm of learning. If you have something, you should reach out to me before you guys made a decision. This is a group of volunteers, 15 people. I thought we are all equal in these programs. I know there is a leadership we had to follow through, but I felt that the leadership is not open to us at all. So maybe it's my assumption that, but I don't know. But I apologize. I won't do that again, but I will go to the channel. But there is no point to penalize any of us. Thank you.
Liz, I'm very sorry if you feel that, I'm very sorry that any action that was taken by the leadership group may have made you feel that we're not equals. We are all citizens of the town of Niskayuna and volunteers in this endeavor. We've just put a process in place to try to work together to obtain information. I don't know what occurred between you and Lisa. I do know that in the emails that I saw from the town, all the information that you requested was turned over. And some of it was duplicative because the other work groups had obtained some of that information. So to prevent that from happening in the future, I'm just asking that we funnel through requests to a central point so that we can coordinate that. And that's part of the leadership obligations. So I'm apologizing to you at this point for any actions that may have been taken that offended you. But I'm also now more than ever, and I can't speak to your interaction with Lisa. I've never experienced rudeness in my endeavors with the task force as yet, surprisingly. So I hope that it'll never happen again and we can proceed with the work that we're charged to do from here on. I saw that David raised his hand. David, do you wish to comment?
Yes, thank you, Dale. So, sure, I think, to Liz's point that, yes, there is a leadership structure in place, and that outside of that, we're all equally committed to the work and in terms of volunteering, and none of us getting any compensation for any of this work. But I guess, when we feel motivated as individuals or as part of a working group, we want to get the work done. We want to get the job done. We want to find out the information. And I think, many hands make light work. And I think we all feel capable of doing X, Y, or Z on our own or as part of a working group. That being said, we do need to follow the structure that's been put in place and channel things through the leadership group or K. I would, though, like a little bit of clarity around so that we don't go across this path again. What type of information or conversations are we talking about in terms of needing to go through leadership or through communications? Because if we're talking about public documentation type thing or demographic information or anything along those lines, that I can see absolutely needs to go through Kay and through Paul and the attorney's office. But are there other instances where task force members may not feel a need to, and I'll use the word in quotes, bother the leadership group or Kay to, who is a leadership part of the leadership group, was also to go ahead and have some of these conversations or seek information? Are there any instances where you don't feel the need to do that, or should we just, out of caution, which is fine, just follow the plan and go through Kay or leadership?
That's a good question. I think actually, because the email has been set up, our points of contact have sort of been set up through the leadership group. It makes sense to coordinate with the leadership group. I don't think there's no hierarchy here. We're all doing the work of the task force.
Yeah.
And what's happened is the leadership group consists of 4 people that have been putting in quite a bit of time to try to just work out a structure
Right.
for this organization. And since we've donated or put in that amount of time, it makes sense to refine it with the rest of the group as situations occur. So if you want to set up a, let's say we want to do a focus meeting, it would make sense to coordinate with the leadership group at this point, since
Absolutely.
pipeline to Paul Briggs and
Right.
also to Lisa Stevens. We're not a group of people that are going to be set in stone. Our terms are only for a year. In June, this is all going to change, and other people who familiarize themselves with the time and the duties required for leadership will get a chance to step in and also do the same act. So we all need to work together to get things done, to keep the task force moving, and to ultimately result in the product that we're, in meeting our
Working towards, yeah.
right, churning out reports and information and making really intelligent recommendations are going to come from our working together. And I'm shocked that people may have developed an idea that the leadership group in any way isn't working for the ultimate purpose. That's why we're here. That's why we volunteered our time, and that's what we're hoping to do. And
I've never felt that way. I just, again, in the interest of there being so many of us, and there being X number of working groups, some of which are still trying to gain some momentum, to take things off your plate, I guess, is more where I was headed. But understood. Thank you. Answer my question very well, and thank you for the consideration.
Also, I think that hopefully that's something that's going to happen organically, that as the working groups start moving and
Right.
start doing things, it's gonna a lot is going to be taken off leadership's plate. But filtering the information, or filtering requests for information, requests to set up focus groups, that sort of thing through the leadership, is just a way of developing a process to get us to that point at this
Right.
point.
Okay. Well, thank you again. And thank you, Kay.
Thank you, David. Liz, I saw that you had a question or comment.
Oh, no, thank you. No, I'm done.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Doc had his hand up.
Yeah.
Doc?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted some clarity as far as what happened. So, Liz, are you saying that someone in the leadership group on the task force responded to you in a disrespectful fashion, or was this someone with the town? I'm just kind of confused.
No, did you see the email? You didn't see the email, right?
I didn't see the email.
I reach out to Lori and Lisa. Can I mention the names? I can, right? Yeah.
Yes.
I thought we are friends because, our working group is David and Julian and myself. and two other people, but they never come to our meetings. But Jamie was there one meeting, so she created, change all our names, and she give us a direction how to move forward. So based on that, we come up with some questions. I didn't write as a questionnaire. I just bullet, points. I need to get some information from you guys, and then I talk to them. That's one of the reasons Lori come up with a statement, mission statement, because they didn't have it, and it's sitting on the council's table. And Lisa, then I reached out to Lisa a couple of times with that, to give me, reply feedbacks. Then she was a little upset. Why you are asking me? Why can't Jamie talk to me? Why can't Jillian talk to me? Why can't John talk to me? So things like that. It went on for a long time, period.
I see.
So that's it. Then all on a sudden, next day I saw, she sent that email to Dale saying I was asking information from them and so and so. Then a couple of days later, I got an email from Kay. This is the process, how you follow through.
I guess my thought is that without question, if there's a protocol set up, that we should follow it. But that has nothing to do with somebody being disrespectful. Okay, that's a separate issue. And it seems to me that this is somebody who essentially supposed to be working with us to facilitate. And so as Dale said, I'm sorry. It really bothers me when I hear of anyone being disrespected. And you said comments were made about your accent, and that's the very reason why we have this task force. Okay.
Dr. Hayward.
Yes.
Elizabeth's talking about conversations that her and I had. I've never, ever made a comment about someone's accent. I actually have a very clear ability to understand people with many different accents, and also great respect for anyone that has the chutzpah to come into the United States speaking a different language. So the accent was absolutely not a question. It was not a challenge at all. The problem was that we had repeated conversations, and I had already given her information, and we're more than happy to be as transparent as possible. We'd actually love for anyone in the group to come over to the Senior Center. We're open 2 days a week, and everyone's welcome to come.
Lisa, we cannot hear you well.
Lisa, your sound is a little garbled.
Yes, your sound is a little off.
Somebody's mic is on that I'm hearing something like a feedback.
Sorry, Lisa.
That's okay. So essentially, I would never have ever criticized anybody's accent. That is not an impediment to me understanding the questions. I had actually, what I did was she had asked me a couple times for information. When I sent her stuff, I said, she sent back more questions, but they weren't really questions, and I needed clarity to know exactly, like she said, she wanted data and documents, and I didn't know what that meant. She wanted how much people make, how long they've worked there, the history of the Senior Center. I just asked for more clarity, and I asked for that from the whole group. And, I think possibly I offended her because I went to everybody that was on that working group, including Jillian. I would never have intended to offend her. I think Elizabeth's lovely. She contributes a lot to the Senior Center. And, I never asked why I was talking to her and not David, or her and not, someone else in the group. That never occurred. Absolutely never occurred. So, I totally get that you would be offended if someone did those things. I did not do those. And, any email communication that I had with her was also with the group, and anyone, Dale was included on those. I think Jamie was included on those. So you can go back and see. We're happy to give information. What happened was Kay came back to me and said, your group's supposed to go through her, who then goes through our attorney. So when I was on vacation last week, I got an email from her with more information, more questions, and I simply sent that back to her. And I said, listen, this is what Kay told me. And, this is the procedure, and we're happy to give you information when that comes through, Paul. So if she was offended, I apologize, but I in no way intended offense. And I think she has a lovely accent, and I understand her very clearly. And that's about it.
Hello, everyone. This is Angela. I just want to say, Liz, I'm very sorry that you had that experience. And Doc, thank you very much for circling back to something that is incredibly important and is probably an experience that many of us on this call have many times a day, often. I think it's an important opportunity to understand that intent is different from impact. And while oftentimes microaggressions are not intended, that is the impact. And so I think there's something very important that we can learn here given our charge. And it's certainly something that we should continue to talk about and maybe even educate on.
Well, Angela, thank you for your comments. And in fact, I actually make mention of microaggressions in my presentation tonight. So we're on
Thank
the
you,
same
Doc.
page. Sure.
Thank you. Thank you both. Thank you, Doc. And we're looking forward to your presentation in a few short minutes. And thank you very much, Angela, for that clarification. I absolutely agree with everything that you've just said. Liz, I see that you wish to make an additional comment.
Yeah, the questions I sent her is, I had the emails back and forth, everything is with me. Do I forward to all my working group people? And they reach out to her too as well. But the questions I sent last week, because we rephrased it, the same questions from the beginning. So we labeled them 1, 2, 3, 4, categorized. That's the same question I sent it to her. Then after that, so she can clarify a little more, understand how to give us the information. That's all.
Thank you. Arinka, did you wish to make a comment?
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh, my microphone is on. Sorry.
That's okay.
I am so sorry. But I definitely agree with Angela and Doc. These microaggressions need to be addressed because this is how things start to compile, and then there's no solution for it. That's all.
Thank you, Arinka. We're going to turn to the next item on the agenda, which is the intern update. I'll turn the table over to Dr. Puccioni and Arinka Abad for our intern update. Thank you, guys.
Hi, everyone. So Ari and I have been meeting regularly and working on the next steps. Town Attorney Briggs has approved the intern program, the process, and so Ari and I have identified a timeline in which we will share the job notice and accept applications. And we've also developed an evaluation tool so we can identify applicants. And we are also working on an exit survey so we can provide a holistic review for the interns at the conclusion of their internship. So Ari, was there anything else you wanted to add to that?
No, I wanted to thank Dale for following up with the email so that we can get their response and move on with the program. And that helped us a lot to make this process to get started. And do you want to say the days, Jamie, when we're planning to started it, or it's okay if I just?
Sure, we can share those dates. So it's our anticipated timeline. I think we're pretty good on this, is to send out the job notice tomorrow. And the due date is due May 15th. And then we anticipate reviewing applications and making recommendations to the leadership committee, to bring more people into the process and have those completed and ready to share with the interns, those who are selected, by June 15th. And then interns would be starting at the end of June, like June 30th, and would be participating in the task force through July and August. And then we would revisit that process, see if we needed to make any adjustments to be prepared for the fall application. What do you think, Ari? Anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. I think you covered pretty much everything. We're well organized, and I'm very happy about that.
I think people are having difficulties logging into the live stream. Just to put it on the radar.
Lisa, is there anything we can do at this point to assist people to log in?
I'm checking right now to see if I'm able to log in on a different computer, and I'll let you know if it's working. But it shows me on here that I have one person logged in is watching. So hopefully that's the person maybe that just reached out. But I'll let you know. Let me check.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, there's one more thing that I since I have Paul here and on the meeting, I don't know how this goes, but if we want to put the announcement for the interns and the town website, what channels should we take, Paul? Can you hear me?
So if someone provides whatever, Jamie or anyone else provides some sort of a announcement, I'll have it posted to the town website. You can either provide it to myself or Lisa.
All right, that's wonderful. Thank you so much.
And Dale, I think this might be a good place when you're done with internships for me to talk to you a little bit, since we're talking about membership, because I have some information on that to provide to the task force.
I just was able to log into the live stream on my other computer, and it doesn't seem to have a problem. It just picked me up as another viewer. So Jamie, are you the one that said someone was having trouble? If they...
Yes, they can get on now.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you for checking. Now Sandra's had her hand raised. Sorry.
Before Sandra, I'm going to get to you in a second, and also you, Liz. But I'm going to let Paul finish up, because when we did the initial roll call, and I noticed, thanks for bringing this up, Paul. We did discuss the resignation of Devin Wembley
Take that
on
off.
the task force. So, Paul, I'll let you, I anticipate that's what you're addressing at this point.
That is, Dale, and thank you. The process that we followed to fill the remaining term of the member the task force member that has resigned was to have the town council person that had appointed the resigning member appoint a new member. Going forward, I'm going to be recommending to the town board that to get participation by other community members, town residents, that the process will be starting with in June, when the people that are on the task force presently those that have a 1-year term. My recommendation to the town board is going to be that we open it up town-wide again, and we'll certainly I'm going to recommend the town board certainly consider the members whose terms are expiring if they express a desire to continue on the task force. But the process, I believe, is going to be similar to, or I'm going to recommend that it be similar to how we fill other boards or committees within the town. We don't normally have a town board member make a recommendation, and that person has that choice. it's normally opened up so that we make a announcement, we accept resumes, and then the town board sits down as a whole and selects the task force members or the committee members or the advisory board members. So going forward, that's going to be my recommendation, that it not be individual appointments. It's going to be a town board appointment. And so I need to express to the members that have the one-year term that we need to know sooner than later what your desire is, because as you'll see, we had the person that's been nominated by the town board through town member Rosemary Perez, is that was done at the meeting last night. That person's not going to be actually voted on to the board until in 2 weeks. So there is a lag. So we need to, if we're going to go forward to fill those positions timely so that you're not missing a third of your task force, that we need to know by, so we want to make those appointments of new members at our June meeting. So that means that we have about 6 weeks from now to find out from the expiring members, the one-year term members, what their intentions are, and to reach out to the community to see other people that may be interested in being on the task force. So what I'll be doing is I'll be sending out an email to each of someone, Dale, in the task force wants to do this, just polling the individuals who have one-year terms as to their desire to stay on the task force or not. And we can work on that process. I can do that, or someone from the task force can do that. But one way or another, I'd like to know that by no later than the end of this month, so we can have the town board as a whole start working towards reappointing or appointing new members.
Okay.
Thank you.
Actually, Paul, it's as though you attended our leadership meeting, because we did discuss this issue, and our plan was to poll those members after this meeting. April 15th, actually, an email was going to be sent out by me and with a CC from the leadership committee to the one-year termers, of which I'm one. And polling them to find out whether or not they wish to stay on the task force. And then we had anticipated sending you a follow-up email similar to the one that we sent regarding Mr. Wembley's resignation, advising you of the individuals who wish to remain and those individuals who wish to cease participation at the end of their one-year term. If that's satisfactory, we'll proceed with that process and have you get notice by the end of the month.
That sounds great, Dale. That's perfect.
Paul, you froze.
No, that sounds like a good process.
Okay, so we'll follow through with it. And part of the reason that the leadership committee discussed it in that way is because we want to set up a process for the future that will continue with the task force for as long as we're around, and dealing with the possibility of task force members who may leave. We also, Paul, are wondering about whether or not you'd like some input from us as to what participation in the task force requires. We've sort of figured out at this point that it would require a commitment of a certain amount of time, between 5 to 15 hours a month of time donated to the task force. And we have other anecdotal observations as to what the participation would require, and we'd like to send that over to the town for their consideration.
I think that would be a good idea, and we can obviously, as we do with any committee, we send out a form of a job description, in this case, a task force description. So that would be great. And further, if it would be helpful, I certainly would be more than welcome to attend the leadership committee if you wanted me present to assist in any way I can. That's up, but I would like to do that, but it's up to the committee, the leadership committee, as to whether they want council present.
Okay, we do meet the Wednesday directly after this meeting, so we're meeting on the 21st. And we would love to have you. Well, I'll talk to the leadership committee.
Okay, sure.
And we'll send a follow-up email. Would that work?
Yes. So, and please just send me the what you call the description or the job description, and I'll certainly review it and shape it the way I think it needs to be, if it needs to be shaped at all, and we'll go back and forth till we have that just how we need it.
Okay, and since we're doing this at a general meeting, I'm just going to ask everyone if you have any comments or observations as to what you think the qualifications for working on the task force would require. Please send it to us as soon as possible before next week, Wednesday, so that we can assemble this and send it out over to the town. And of course, we'll send everybody what's in the email and the information that we put together, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Liz, I saw that you had your hand raised.
Hi, thank you, Dave. That was a nice conversation about the membership, more detailed. Jamie and Ori, I have a question for you. So this application internship, where should I get the application? You guys going to let us know? Because some of the kids I reach out, they are interested in participating. So how can I get the application and in the deadline and so on and so forth? If you can give me an idea, I'd appreciate it.
Ari, do you want to address that? You're muted.
Are we back into the intern program? Okay.
Yes.
So I think Sandra had raised her hand. I think this is pertaining to what Paul was saying. So I don't want to overstep, and I want to let her talk before I answer that question, Liz.
Okay.
Okay, Paul, my question to you is, what is the time frame that you're going to have where you're soliciting for volunteers and the time that you're going to have to review them and make a choice? Because if we're only 6 weeks out, that doesn't look like a lot of time. So does that mean that this is going to occur by the end of the month, and possibly maybe by mid-May you will have made a choice, or the deadline will be mid-May? Because if you're trying to get it done for June, you know.
So we actually have till the end of June.
Okay.
The meeting is the last Thursday in June. So, but I haven't really thought out a schedule in my mind. But if we at least have we know what current members that that are expiring, we know how many want to continue. Or then I would suspect if we know that by the end of the month, we'll put out information out for at least 3 to 4 weeks in May. Then we can, the town board can discuss that at the agenda meeting in the second or the first Tuesday in June, and then make recommendations for appointments at the actual town board meeting on the third, I think it's the third Tuesday in June. So that would be my proposed schedule. That would give us about 4 to 5, 6 weeks to accept people that are petitions, or not petitions, accept resumes or letters from people that are interested in joining the task force, and then making decisions. The town board would then have at least a month to review that and decide whether they're going to reappoint anyone that wishes to continue or appoint new members from that are not presently on the task force. So that's, Jamie, that's my quick outline, but that's what I would perceive given the timeframes that we're working with.
All right, and then Liz's question can be answered, but mine's a follow-up to the internship. My quick question is, you're planning to have interns be able to work July through August. What is going to happen at the school year? Is it only going to be July through August, or is it going to go from September to May of the next year?
We had recommended and shared at the last meeting that we would have an internship program that was by semesters, fall, spring, and a summer. We anticipate that fall will be September through the end of December. There'll be some break, then mid-January to probably mid-May. And then the summer would start June 15 and through August. So that's what we're thinking. We've vacillated on some of the very specific dates because we're trying to meet the needs of the task force and also the students. High school schedule, college schedule isn't exactly the same. So that's what we're aiming for currently. But, oh, Ari, do you want, I see you hand.
No, I wanted to answer the question for Liz and maybe get the chance to talk after you talk, since I am also co-chairing. So,
hold on 1 second, Ari. Jamie, this June 15th to August 15th. This is for high school students or for college students? The time frame. Because the high school.
Ari, would you like to respond to that?
Can you ask the question again?
No, the time frame. You guys are divided into 3 because the high school. High school is start from September to June, and you have that. And colleges, some only union colleges only 3 semesters. All the other schools ending at May or before that. So you have the time frame June 15 to August 15. So this is for just for college students or high school students. Is it this as a summer program or what?
It's the same. It's going to be the same. It's the same for students at the school. I think that they have like different periods where sometimes the courses are divided in one period. I don't remember how to call it, but they will have one course that they are throughout all the fall, and then they will have another course that they are throughout the whole spring. So it will be actually how we did it throughout the semester, the fall, the spring, and the summer. And do you have any other questions, Elizabeth?
No, this is for me, things like that. This is just for a summer, summership. The school will be over by June 20th for the high school almost. And, for our union college ends in May, in June 11th, we graduate. So August, there is no students, only the international students are there, all the sports people. So we may have to reinvestigate that time frame. It will be great.
Okay, well, the dates. So these are the dates. Okay, so April 15, tomorrow we will be sending out the application with the announcement to the counselors. There's going to be 2 different counselors. One is for the juniors, and the other one is for the high school seniors. So if we'll also put in the announcement to the town website for any community members outside, right? That there are students that they actually are residents of Niskayuna and they would like to apply. So probably sometimes they commute back and forth to Union College or Schenectady or and so forth. So they will apply through there. And also, we're trying to see if we can reach out in the Niskayuna newspaper. That's not something that isn't set in stone yet, but we're thinking about it, and Jamie and I will talk about it. So if you have someone in mind that would like to apply for the summer or do would like to apply for any other semester, it has to go through those channels. And if there is any extra information that you would like to get, we can be reached through our emails, since the application will have it, the announcement will have our emails to provide just only the information. The applications will be gathered through the task force. It will go through the task force email. And then we will be provided those applications to us so that we can review it. So that is the process, Elizabeth.
Can you send me this in an email? So I can follow through, because I am not following through. Thank you.
What part you're not following?
I mean, the whole thing you explained to me. If you can send me an email, write it down.
Jamie and I will write an email and then we will follow.
Yeah,
we will
you too can send me an email so I can follow. Then I can talk to the students, how the process is. Because a couple of students reach out to me. They are interested.
Okay, just have the students send us an email, and then we will guide.
But I had to know before I talk to them too. So, when they call, because I representing the Asian people. So when they, Asian means I'm an Indian, so I'm reaching out to the Indian community to be a part of this process. So I would like to get the information in full depth, so I can, communicate with them in so many languages, so that's why.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, definitely. Jamie and I will be drafting an email so that you understand the process very well and you can provide that to the students. Are they students of the high school here in Niskayuna?
Yes, or otherwise I wouldn't ask. And maybe
Okay,
some
so
evening kids too, because
okay,
I am a Niski girl, for so
okay,
many years.
all right. So if there are students through the Niskayuna high school, they will have to go through their counselor there as a senior. And if they are also Niskayuna student at the high school, they will have to go through the either the junior or the senior counselors. Okay. Jamie, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. Jamie, you raise your hands.
No, Ari, you covered everything. Thank you. I didn't have anything else to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. This is exciting. I'm happy to see we're moving forward, and hopefully we'll have some interns this summer. And great. Thank you so much for the process. We'll move on to the next item on our agenda. Dr. Horton has graciously agreed to provide us a presentation on a question at our very core, the issue of racial equity. And so I will do a brief introduction at this time. He was kind enough to provide his abbreviated biography, and I'm informed that Dr. Hayward Derrick Horton is the president and chief executive officer of H.D. Horton and Associates, a professional consulting firm based in the Albany Capital District. He is also a professor of sociology at the School of Public Health at the State University of New York at Albany. He holds a Bachelor's of Arts in Sociology from Norfolk State University and a Master of Arts and PhD from Pennsylvania State University. His areas of specialty are demography, race or ethnicity, entrepreneurship, and community and economic development. Former president of the Association of Black Sociologists. He is recognized internationally and as the father of critical demography. Dr. Horton has published extensively in the areas of the demography of racial inequity, race or ethnicity, and entrepreneurship, and the impact of race on wealth, status, and power. His most recent co-authored books are Color Struck: How Race and Complexion Matter in the Colorblind Era, and Race, Population Studies and America's Public Schools. He is a co-editor of Issues in Race and Sociology, the official journal of the Association of Black Sociologists. Professor Horton is the president of the Beta Phi Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity, Inc. in Albany, New York. He is also a member of the Capital District Anti-Racism Training Initiative and the founding director of its Allyship Institute. Professor Horton's personal philosophy is that sociologists have an obligation, underline, to apply their knowledge to make a difference in society. And with those fine credentials, I now turn the table over to Dr. Horton.
Thank you, Dale. And let's see if we can do, see if I can work the present noun function. I'm more of a Zoom person, so okay, all right. Let's see your entire screen. Okay, let's see. Okay. No. All right, let's see. No. Okay. No. Okay. Lord, why aren't we doing this one? So, can everyone see this?
Not yet.
No.
Okay, what am I doing wrong here? Again, it doesn't seem to be functioning as the way Zoom does. Help me out.
In the bottom, it says present now. That's where you have to go and click in the arrow.
Okay, I did that, and it says share your entire screen. Okay, let's do that. Choose what you like to share. Huh.
Just choose what window you would like to share.
All right. Huh. Okay. Doesn't seem to be working. Okay, let me do this. Let's try it again.
Nice. Yeah.
Okay, let's see.
I don't think we have any limitations from sharing our screens.
I was just going to ask that. Does he have to be permitted to share a screen?
Lisa?
Okay, I think
No, he should be allowed to. We've had him before.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Can you guys see it?
Doc. Yep.
There you go.
You can see it. Okay.
Documents are now up, Doc.
Okay, let's try this from the J. Okay, can you see that?
Yeah.
All right.
You want to go to slideshow?
Well, I just want to talk. It's interesting. I'm so accustomed to seeing pictures on the side. I don't see that. I just see my presentation, but I don't need to see myself. I think I can handle that. Again, just want to thank you. Hopefully we have enough time to go through this, but I like to start with this quote from the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, and it says, "We have to repent in this generation, not merely for the hateful words and actions of the bad people, but for the appalling silence of the good people." And this was from his famous letter from Birmingham jail. If you had an opportunity to read that, it is a phenomenal document, and a 14-page letter that he wrote just on scraps of paper that his colleagues were able to get out of the prison during visitations. But nevertheless, the point is that we all have to have a role to play. And oftentimes it's the silence that allows for hate and racism to actually fester. I want to kind of take you back just quickly to a time and way into my youth. I was all of 8 years old, but this is something that really stuck with me. I'm a native of Norfolk, Virginia. At the time I was in the 3rd grade, and at that time schools were still segregated in my part of Virginia. They didn't start get segregated until 1971. That was my first year of high school, so I guess I'm dating myself. And so but I remember we're standing in line in school as kids do when they're going from one place to the other. And this kid in front of me, he was a young Black kid about my age. He spun around. I didn't know him. He spun around and he said to me, "If you're white, you're right. If you're yellow, you're a good fellow. If you're brown, then stick around. But if you're Black, then get back." And then he just spun back around in place. And I stood there wondering what was that. But as I got older, of course, I understood that two things. First, he didn't know what he was saying. He just liked the fact that it rhymed. But secondly, he unknowingly laid out, even at 8 years old, the system of color stratification that is a result of a racist social structure that we have here in the United States. Ironically enough, that same degree and typology of colorism still exists today. Okay, and so if we're going to talk about racial equity, we first got to deal with racism. And there are many definitions for racism, but this is a definition that I actually added to the discipline because it's more of a what I call an operational definition, one that one can quantify and analyze. And so we talk about racism. It's a multi-level and multi-dimensional system of dominant group oppression that scapegoats the race and or ethnicity of one or more subordinate groups. When I say multi-level, what we're talking about is it can happen at the macro level, at the societal level. It can happen at the medial level or the community level. And it also can happen at the micro level, what we were talking about earlier. Okay. But irrespective of level, it has the effect of essentially oppressing or scapegoating a race of one of the subordinate groups, typically in favor of the dominant group. And I'll go into a little bit if we have some time to get into some of the nuances of racism. But its genesis is essentially inequality causes racism. And the irony is, for a long time, sociologists, other scholars used to argue that racism causes inequality. In modern times, we understand that actually that initial causal relationship was reversed. And the inequality causes, and we talk about inequality of 3 dimensions: inequalities of wealth, inequalities of status, and inequality of power. And so of these three, power is the most important, because if you have the power, then you can take the wealth of another group. You can steal their land, okay, and put them on reservations, and then you create your own status system. You can create a system where being white is right. You can create a system where, in fact, you write everyone else out of history as opposed to yourself. And so all of this primarily comes from having the power. And so we start looking at manifestations of racism. Again, we see the laws that are differentially applied or reinforced by race. Some examples being mortgage lending. Okay. Interesting enough.
Excuse me, Doc.
Yeah.
Did you mean to be advancing in your slides? Because I think you're on slide 5, but I can only see slide 1 right now.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
It's not advancing?
Not on my screen.
How about anybody else?
No.
No, they're all shaking their heads.
Oh my goodness.
One.
You guys, we got to do Zoom.
Forgive me for interrupting. I didn't know what your intentions were, but
I'm glad you did interrupted me, because man, I am about around on slide 5. I don't know what this. I don't know. That's crazy.
I think you have to physically click on the slide to get it to come up.
Or space bar.
Oh, okay. Well,
or click on it from beginning maybe, and then because it's highlighted, but it doesn't look like you actually clicked on it. I don't know.
Okay, let's go back.
There you go. Now you're on slide 5.
There you go. You're in slide. Yeah.
I'm on slide 5 now.
Yes.
Okay, but you guys missed 2 through 4. Okay, but nevertheless, all right. So I had to click on each one.
It was
manually.
clear it was clear, the presentation.
Oh,
we were paying attention.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are something else. You mean all those teachers' awards were true? Anyway, so let's talk about manifestations of racism. Based at the societal level, again, we're talking about differentially applied laws, like for instance, mortgage lending. You know, as a result of the civil rights movement, Congress passed the Community Reinvestment Act. Okay, and this was approximately 1968. That was to invest in disadvantaged communities. All right. In essence, of course, promoting homeownership. Well, today, studies have documented that those same programs are actually facilitating gentrification, and in fact, Blacks and Latinos who have comparable credit scores to whites are being denied, and whites are being allowed to essentially build up their wealth, in some cases buying second and third homes in these various communities. Okay, the right to bear arms. Just quickly, you're supposed to have the right to bear arms, and we see whites walking down the street and protests, what have you, from time to time with bear arms. I bet you'll never see a group of Black people walking down like that without the cops stopping them. Even in states where the right to bear arms, you can actually carry those arms in public. That's not going to happen. And of course, right now we've got voter suppression going on, not only in Georgia but 42 other states. At the community level, racial profiling, discrimination in hiring, the glass ceiling, and that occurs in various companies. And then what we were talking about earlier was individual level racism, microaggressions. Okay, microaggressions certainly are those actions that dismiss, devalue, or demean individuals based upon their race or ethnicity. And there are basically three types. There's the micro assault, that's a verbal or physical violence. Micro insults, statements that tend to discount or objectify minorities. And micro invalidation, that's it, to ignore or dismiss the work or the contributions of various subordinate group members. And Microaggressions, one way to think about microaggressions is something like death by 1,000 cuts. Let me give you a quick example. I just give you a personal example. This happened in my youth. I was then still a professor I was assistant professor at the time at Iowa State University. I was at our national meeting. This is the American Sociological Association. And the reality is that I happen to be out on a big patio at this hotel, and everybody's out there having their lunch or whatever. And I look across the way and I see this colleague of mine who I had spent quite a bit of time with. We had published together as in a collective, what have you. And, you know, it was somebody I considered a friend. Well, you know, this is August, summertime. I have my jacket on the back of my on the back of my seat, but I have my coat, my shirt and tie on, of course. So I walk over to say hello. I walk over there, and just as I approached her, she didn't look up. She said, "I'll take some red wine." Okay. I stood there shocked, and I said, no, I didn't mention her name. I said, no, I'm not here to take your order. I just came by to say hello. I'm Hayward, remember? And I turned around and I left. And then she looked up. She said, "Oh no!" Ran behind me. "Oh no!" Grabbed me. "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." And it's just interesting. Here is someone, PhD, someone who actually makes her career publishing on minorities and specifically on Native Americans, and yet. To her, the only reason that a Black man would be approaching her personal space, would be to serve her. Okay, that's microaggression at its worst. And so, I often share that because it just, I think is a very poignant example. And so we talk about racism, but what we need to also focus on is anti-racism, and that's what this task force is about. Anti-racism, because if we're going to get any type of equity, then we have to deal with anti-racism. And anti-racism are actions directed towards changing racist social structures, policies, and practices, okay, at all levels. Anti-racism is a direct attack on racism, white supremacy, and white privilege. And so it's not enough for us to, quote unquote, not be racist, because that's being quiet, just as Martin Luther King said. That's just saying, well, you know, I'm not doing it. But but you're still allowing it to happen. Anti-racism means you're going to have to do something. And this is what, at least in my eyes, this is what this task force is about. To reach equity, we have to go through and utilize anti-racism. There's no other way. Oh, I did something wrong here. Okay. And so I always talk about the sociological imagination. And the sociological imagination is an awareness of the forces that are around you. And one of the things I always bring up the example during this time, particularly spring, summer, you see a lot of construction on the roads here in New York State, not only locally in town, whether in Niskayuna or throughout the Capital District, but all up and down the thruway. Construction. And I always ask my students to use their sociological imagination, and I say, ask them, where are the black guys? Huh? Oh, where are the black guys? You see, because one interesting sociological reality is that the Black population is not predominantly poor. The Black population is not predominantly middle or upper middle class or wealthy. The Black population is a solidly working class population. And in fact, the Black population is more working class than the white population ever has been. So the question is, where are the black guys? And see, what we're seeing right there, you ask that question, In fact, I asked that. When I first got here, I was asking that question on campus all the time because every year they got these construction projects. They got so tired of me asking it, they actually got the company to hire one black guy just to shut me up. And so the bottom line, the bottom line is we have to take the blinders off, and we have to be willing to ask questions. So, and we can be anti-racist, but if we're unwilling to look and to actually see things, then it's certainly we're not going to be effective. And so again, that's sociological imagination. And then what's an ally? And finally, an ally seeks to understand what it feels like for another person or group to be oppressed. Okay, an ally is, we want to understand that an ally is someone typically who's not a minority, and yet this is a person who is willing to fight for the minority causes. Now, understand something. There's a difference between an ally and a white savior. Minorities don't need white saviors. And an ally supports the existing leadership within minority communities, not take over. Too oftentimes you see in groups like this where you might see a white person, that person has a takeover spirit because of white privilege, they're accustomed to being in charge. If you're going to be a true ally, then you're going to have to sit back and play a support role. Okay, and again, here's the interesting thing. We often think about white privilege. We often think, I keep clicking this thing and I keep bringing extra. We often think about white privilege as a negative thing. I'm here to tell you that through allyship, white privilege can be a positive thing. And so we want to encourage allies to use their white privilege to advance the issue of the cause of racial equity, racial justice. But you do that, but to be a good ally, that means you have to be willing to play that support role. Okay, I want to pause there because I want to make sure that we have enough time for any questions. But I will say one last thing about allyship, and as it relates to racism. As I started off, I started off telling you about the racial hierarchy relative to colorism in America. Well, you see, that's part of the divide and conquer approach that the Donner Group has used. So, for instance, Asians are labeled as the quote unquote model minority. Well, the dominant group labeled them that way so as to contrast them with Black people who are protesting racism in society. Well, Asians, they're not protesting, and look what they're doing. They're just making it on their human capital. Well, here's the irony. Again, those other groups who have greater access to white space because they're not Black often make a Faustian bargain. In other words, it's like a deal with the devil. You're being quiet. You can be complicit with anti-Black racism because you have greater access to white space, and therefore you get honorary white status. And so the only problem with that is that just as we're seeing with anti-Asian racism right now, if I may be blunt, what the white man giveth, the white man can taketh away. And so in essence, your model minority status or your access to white space can be revoked when the interests of the Donner Group change. And all of this, what we're seeing is the result of the fact of demographics. Or in other words, according to the last census, and again, we haven't gotten data because of Trump screwing up with the Census Bureau. We haven't got data yet from the 2020 census, but for the last census, we were able to document that every racial and ethnic group grew except for the white population. The white population was the only population that had more people who died than were born, and that is a clear recipe for population decline. In fact, even extinction. And that is the reason why we're seeing all this. What we're seeing is the twilight of white supremacy. And that's why they're fighting so hard. That's why we saw the insurrection. That's why Trump was even elected. Some of you guys might be Trumpeteers, but I'm just stating the facts. Anyway, I'm going to pause. Questions, comments, testimonials, and let me see if I can. I guess I'll stop sharing right now. So how do you? Oh, you're here to stop presenting. So I'll take some questions, comments, or testimonials.
Can I take it?
Sure.
Thank you, Doctor. It's a very nice presentation. But can you tell me your standpoint about the Asian hate crimes? Because a lot of people are attacking us, Asians, and we are living in a, in a state of mind, who is going to attack me. Especially, I am suffering from my neighborhood too. But mostly, I'm addressing in the Asian hate crime.
Again, you see, the Asian population is the fastest growing population in the United States. Okay, and so basically, this type of hate against Asians and other groups were always there, but Asians stayed in their lane. As long as they didn't challenge the interests of whites, then that was fine. Well, you have a situation where China is demonized because they're following their economic interests. You got a past president, who essentially demonized Asians for the coronavirus. Okay, and so when you have those types of you have a element in the population that is pretty much on the edge anyway. It doesn't take much for them to focus their anger. Anti-Asian racism is no different from anti-Black racism or anti-Latino racism. Look how they're reacting to changing the immigration laws to try to keep immigrants from Central and South America out of here, even to the point where your last president was actually separating children from their families to discourage that. So no, racism is racism. And what minority groups have to do is to stop letting the dominant group play those divide and conquer games. So that divide and conquer games mean, well, this is anti-racism now, so we Latinos are going to sit back. Oh, it's anti-Black racism, so the Asians are going to sit back. No. Martin Luther King once stated that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And so if you really want to fight anti-Asian racism, then the Asians have to stand up when this kid in Minnesota gets killed by a cop, okay, point blank range. All right, they got to stand up and speak up and protest then too, okay, because racism is racism, irrespective of the group that's being targeted at that particular time. Okay. Excellent question there, Liz. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Actually, Doc, I have two questions.
Sure.
First, would you be able to share the presentation by email with everyone, your PowerPoint?
I typically don't, but since you guys are my friends.
or if you wish, you could send it to me and I'll just send it to everyone.
I'll do that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think this is a great presentation. I just have one question about equity.
Okay.
Do you have a definition, a quick and dirty definition that we can rely on to determine what is considered racial equity as opposed to equality? What does the term racial equity mean overall? Quick and dirty, if you can.
Yeah, sure. we're talking about racial equity. We're talking about a process to ensure fairness in terms of access to resources. So, for instance, when a long time ago, there used to be something called affirmative action. Okay, they don't talk about that anymore because affirmative action was an attempt to redress past injustices. But now you just have diversity, and what diversity really translates into is, for the dominant group, anything but black. So you have these guys saying, "Well, we're diverse. I mean, look at our payroll. We've got Asians and we've got Latinos. Okay, we've got white women, so we're good." And so in short, equity is more about redressing those past injustices so that you can reach equality. You can't reach equality without equity. I don't know if I answered that for you.
Okay. No, I think you did. You gave me a very good answer. And actually, I have a little anecdote.
Okay.
Years ago, I obtained a really nice position with really esteemed colleagues in the area of law. And I entered the room being the only person like me in the room. And I made my colleagues, I actually thought after a while they were good friends. And after about 6 months of working with this person, with a bunch of my colleagues, but one older non-ethnic male, non-Black male, he came to me during the course of our working. We were working on a project together and we were alone in the room. And he says to me, "Are you here because of affirmative action?" I can laugh now. It wasn't funny at that moment. But, I wanted to say, hell yeah, and I hope that they'll keep affirmative action because I'm as qualified, if not more qualified than you. But I refrained from doing that. So
Well,
just an anecdote.
so that was a microaggression, and
Yeah.
you see too often those microaggressions happen so fast before you can even think to respond. You say, "Oh, did that happen?" And by the time you kind of gather your wits, it's almost the moment is gone. And the irony is, so think about the fact that the type of tension that a minority person has to have, where you're always on the ready for a quick comeback. My God, that's enough to kill you right there. All right.
You know what, Doc? I think that is such an important point, because I think what isn't understood then is that oftentimes if we do mention it and bring it forward, it's often long after the fact. And then, of course, that issue is then highlighted in terms of whether or not, the concern is actually valid. Folks need to understand that these types of aggressions happen so often, so quickly, which, Doc, I think you had said in the beginning, it's death by 1,000 cuts.
Mm-hmm.
And I really do think that folks have to sit with that for just a second and understand what members on this committee, in the community, whether it's issues related to language, race, gender, the intersection of all of those issues, have to manage. And, as Doc said, often it's, wait a minute, what? And then, of course, the responsibility isn't on you somehow to come back with a response to educate someone who generally will tell you that they didn't have an intent to harm. We need to push this dialogue forward. As folks on this committee, we need to step up and charge people in the town, the community, in leadership roles to put this at the forefront, to understand that all of these issues impact equity. Our role is not equality. Equality is giving everyone what they, the very same. Equity
Yeah.
is it's recognizing that folks may need something different just to get that same level.
Yeah. Mhm.
Amen.
Yeah. Also, I think that is also very important to address the fact that not only these racism and inequalities are existent within each group and each member sometimes, like I could be Latina, but I can discriminate against another Latina, right? And that happens very often. We try to put down other people. I don't know. You have been treating so poorly that resentment, that defensiveness, and that anger comes true, and you try to put other groups down as well. So I think that we have to be very aware of that. The part of like the interior part of it, also as well as the outside part of it, to be able to learn from that, right? No, because I'm Latina, I'm gonna be a better, or my life is gonna matter much more than a Black person, or it's gonna matter much more than a white person. We are all matter. We all matter. And that's, I think, is very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
And the question that I have for you is like, how do we differentiate this resentment, this defensiveness, this anger that people sometimes carry on, this behavior, right? To try to make changes in society. How do we identify these type of behaviors?
Well, it's certainly, first of all, it's not an easy thing. All right. The key is that it depends upon whether or not an individual who is angry, okay, is willing to be educated as to what the true source of his or her anger is. Okay. You could scapegoat other minority groups or feel you're better. Well, at least I'm not Black. Okay. So, okay. So I can live next door, you know. Uh, but the bottom line is the question is, are you willing to understand that this is all part of the nuance of racism? That
Mhm.
in fact, racism looks different for different groups, and primarily to divide different groups. Okay, that was done all the time, even on the plantation, as you know, they divided. They kept the light skinned slaves in the house, and the dark skinned slaves are out in the field. Okay, that same divide and conquer mentality. The Europeans did not create divide and conquer, but they certainly perfected it. Okay, they perfected it to the maximum, to the point where this colorism thing. You want to see colorism? Colorism is in the Black community. Colorism in the Latino community. You really want to see some colorism? See it in the Indian community. Over in India, we certainly have persons of Indian descent here. Oftentimes, you'll see in the paper where somebody's looking for a spouse for their child, and they'll say you got to be light skinned. Okay, I've got a friend who is a very light skinned Black woman. She went over to India, and almost the moment she got off the plane, she was trying to fight off marriage proposals. Okay, primarily because of her skin color. All right. So once again, what we have to do is those people have to be willing to be educated in terms of to understand where's the true source of their anger. Okay, and the true source of it is not some other group that is treated worse than you are. The true source is the dominant group that profits from the whole system, but profits from keeping us all divided. And that, again, to reiterate my first statement, that is not easy.
Yeah, definitely. It's a together work.
That is correct.
It's a together work. It's an educational part where we are actually in a mutual understanding that we're here to work and to do great. And that's the intent, right? To work on the trust part of it. And
That is correct. That is correct. And again, I think part of that is not having lockjaw when something happens to another group. Here's a little interesting tidbit. We saw on TV the other day where this soldier who was Black and Latino was pepper sprayed by this cop. Okay, and how he was brutally treated. What people seem to miss is the cop that was doing the pepper spraying and mostly forcing him down to the ground, all that type of stuff. He also had a Spanish surname. So in this particular case, I know whether he identifies being Latino, I don't know. But the bottom line is, here is a person who it looked like a white Latino and a Black Latino, and Latino got neutralized. It was just black and white.
Yeah.
At least from the standpoint of what it seemed, the standpoint of this white cop who happened to have a Spanish surname. Okay,
Yeah.
People don't bring that up. So, and that kind of highlights a whole lot of things.
Yes.
That in America, if you can pass for white, you're white, and you embrace everything about white privilege that comes with that.
Very true, Dr. Harper. Very true. I appreciate this answer. It's amazing. It's amazing the differences, but also an accent too. When you have an accent and you can speak, right, and then oh.
But see, here's
so
the interesting thing.
Changed.
I've seen white Latinos code switch every day. They're white until it's in their advantage to sound like a Latino, and then the accent comes on. And the accent may not necessarily be theirs, but they will affect the accent. I see it every day. And so, but these people experience white privilege, and they really don't have they really aren't leading Latinos, and they certainly don't necessarily care about Black folks. It's just interesting how that is.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Sure.
It's very good.
Hi, Doc. One more thing.
Sure.
I'm from India. I always say that. India. We still continue with the affirmation in affirmative action. So, if you are a minority, we consider as a minority because India is a mostly Hindu world, right? So I always give the example as 16 versus 2. So I represent only the 2% of the population, how we get a job or something like that. So we still follow that thing in India.
Well, India certainly is a highly heterogeneous and complicated place. But once again, once the Europeans did their divide and conquer on them, okay, because if you recall, they were once under the control of the British, and they brought those racist attitudes with them. Just to kind of give you an idea, quite a few years ago, about a decade or so ago, I actually did a lecture in China. I went to I was in Beijing. In fact, I did a lecture at the People's University of Beijing, and I was there for about a week. And then for my second week, I was going to Hong Kong. And Beijing. So when I got into Beijing, I just said, I couldn't feel it. I could not feel any racism. I couldn't feel it. And I'm an expert, not only by training, but by life. I could. Now you better have money. And unfortunately, the American dollar is trading 8 to 1. But they treated me like a prince. When I got into Hong Kong, as soon as I got into the hotel, boom, I could. The people did a double take. Hong Kong, as you know, was controlled by the British, and they had those racist attitudes. Didn't treat me bad, but I could feel it. It was like night and day. Okay. So getting back to India, yeah, I can understand. The fact that colorism is rampant in India is not surprising. Any other questions, comments, testimonials?
I think it's a nice platform for open our mind, and this serves as our task force things. So we should continue like a discussion like that. Myself and Dave was thinking about maybe we can. David, you want to put that your thoughts here?
Well, let me just say this. I forgot to mention on Thursday the 29th at 7 o'clock, I'm actually hosting a town hall, okay, and on Zoom. And it it's entitled, it'll be entitled W.E.B. Du Bois and Black Community Development. And many of these issues that we're talking about, we're going to deal with, and it's open to the public. I do this because, again, I'm at the stage of my life. I'm a professor, I'm an entrepreneur, but I also believe that at this stage of my life, I want to try to make this society better. And part of that is to create this dialogue. And I'm teaching a course on Du Boisian sociology. Actually, it's a dualistic course, graduate and undergraduate, on Du Boisian sociology. And I'm also teaching a course on community development. So I want to bring those ideas together. And it's open to everybody, technically everybody in the world. But I want you to come on in. I'm gonna have a little bit of discussion, and then we'll field questions, and we can take the conversation anywhere you want to go. So I'll make sure I'll send the link once I create it to our fearless leader Dale, so she can distribute it to the group. And so please feel free. You got to register first because I don't want any trollers, and then come on in, and please feel free. And my whole purpose of doing this is because we've got to have these dialogues. Okay, we got to have these dialogues. And so I'll be doing these town halls. I call them Doc's town halls. Or technically, I'll say Dr. Horton's town hall because my family says, hey, you can't say Doc every time. It's okay, but still, it'll be Doc's town hall, and we'll discuss issues. But this particular one, the first one will be on W.E.B. Du Bois and Black community development. And if you haven't heard of W. Du Bois, and if you have not had a chance to read his material, he wrote a ton, but I would encourage you at least to start with The Souls of Black Folk. If you haven't had a chance to read it, read The Souls of Black Folk. It's not that long, it's easy reading, but it's powerful, and it kind of sums up so many ideas. Okay, so you can come in there with at least with The Souls of Black Folk under your arm, then you're ready to engage, okay?
Thank you, Doc. That was a great presentation. Thank you very much for your time and explanation of these issues. We may have you back again quite soon.
My pleasure. Anytime I can educate, I'm telling you, I love it. So thank you.
Thank you. At this point, we're going to, it is pretty late in the evening. Our next item on the agenda would be the working group update. Because of John's inability to participate fully, we're going to table the public update at this time.
Oh, excuse me, Dale. I unfortunately I have to run to another meeting, if that's okay.
Okay, we're not voting anything. I thank you very much for your time, Dr. Horton.
Hey, well, thank you guys.
Thanks a lot, Doc. That was great. Thank you.
My pleasure. You guys take care. I look forward to seeing y'all next month. Actually, on the 29th.
Yes. Okay. So at this time, then, we will move to the community service. We have two updates, the community service and the best practices work group update. So community services, Jillian Margolis and Liz, I'll turn the tables over to you.
Very quick update. We are going to work with Kay and the other leadership members and try to just get any information that we can that's open to the public on how the community programs are run and organized and how they're able to reach out to people in the communities. We're mostly just interested in how things have worked. It's likely that, conversation. But we'll take what we can get, and we're just hoping that we can get a foundation. From there, we can work our way up.
So as I said before, I send all the questionnaires, and so we will go follow through, okay, so to get all the information. And Lori's created a mission statement. Is sitting in Council Bricks of table. I don't know if it's approved or not, but most of the things, the data and all those questions I asked, they don't have it. So maybe, and as Lisa said, she's willing to work with us, all of them, So I had to go through the leadership, ladder to get all the information. Once we get it, we try to do our report and submit, whatever we can do at the report, what we are up to as of now, we can do that too.
One other thing I wanted to mention too is David wrote a very lovely mission statement just for the community services group, and he's a very eloquent writer, so we'll make sure that we can share that with you all.
Can I just add in regards to your the senior center mission statement? I spoke with Rosemarie, and she said that we are definitely working on it, and we would love your input because we would like it to be as inviting and as inclusive and reflect the community's desires for the senior center. So we are super open to any suggestions that you guys would have. And I'm not sure if you're planning on doing a mission statement for the community programs department, which is kind of separate because we do more youth and adult programming with that. But that as well is an open invitation, and we look forward to anything you guys can come up with.
Thank you, Lisa. That sounds
Thanks, Lisa.
so amazing.
Thank you, Liz. We'll work on it.
Does anyone have any questions or comments for the working groups for community service?
I would just like to add, Dale, that our goal is really to just find out what exists and what doesn't exist in terms of practices and protocols, and just get that baseline data in, and then work as a group or committee to make recommendations if they need to be made. We're not looking to catch anyone in a gotcha type situation at all. That's not it. We're on a fact-finding mission, and when we find out what's happening or not happening, then we'll just start from there. That's like, as Jillian already said, we're doing foundational work here. So, and I'm encouraged. I think we've already got a good jump on things.
Wow,
thank you.
Sounds great. You guys, thank you so much. And at this time, we'll move on to the Data and Best Practices Committee Work Group with Priti Irani and Ari Arinka Abad, who are the co-chairs.
Right. Dale, this is Preeti. So I'll give the report. It's and Ari can fill in if I forget something, Ari. We have 7 members on our subgroup from the task force. There are, besides Ari and me, John, Angela, Jamie, Liz, and Kay. And of them, we had a meeting on March 19th where we kind of shared what we're going to do at the first meeting. 4 of the 7 could make that meeting. And basically, it's introducing people to what systems are, systems thinking, how they're connected. The intent is that whoever's presenting will not speak more than 20 minutes totally at any meeting. It'll be very interactive. So what we did at the March 19 meeting is get a sense of what people think their roles are, what they expect of others. And we also started talking a little bit about equity and what are the causes. We just began the discussion. The second meeting would go mostly on that. So this is the same meeting. So everybody agreed at that meeting that we could open it up to the community. So, and the town has agreed, and Lisa sent out the information on their email list. And so far, on the form that we put out, we have 7 people interested in being part of that group. And I don't know if there's anybody who responded via the email, the task force email. If they have, just let me know. And the reason for that is, and I have to ask Lisa and maybe follow up with a call with you or something, that I want to use the Jamboard. We use the Jamboard, Google Jamboard, which is people can interact and write on it. Um, we'll use 3 ways for people to make it interactive. The Jamboard is most fun because you can participate really actively. But if people don't have a Gmail address, it can sometimes be tricky, because everything is integrated better. It's a Google Jamboard. So it's a Google Meet. So it's better integrated. So I'll warn them. So if they can't, they'll have a Word document they can write in, or they can participate via chat, and we'll fill in the information. So I thought having 7 folks, and we said let us know by Monday, so we may get a few more, but that's a very good start. And our first meeting will be April 20th, and the first meeting is 1 hour 15 minutes, and then we'll get a better sense whether we should meet monthly. I would prefer to have a 1.5 hour meeting, but I didn't want to scare people, so I did 1 hour 15 minutes, a compromise. And so that's where we're at with the data and best practices group. As we get more comfortable, several of the people who wrote in saying they're interested said their expertise is data and assessment. So we have pretty good people coming on board. So we'll get to give a couple of meetings to understand the framework, the process, where people see the connections are, and then people will help with different aspects of the data. And when I talk about data at this point, we're talking about secondary data that are already available. So that's where we'll start. So Ari, anything else, Ari? No? All right. That's it.
Pretty, we can talk anytime. I'll be in the office all day
All right.
tomorrow, like 9 to 5 probably. And
Okay.
then if that's not convenient for you, I'll email you my
No, that's
cell
fine.
phone.
I'll
That
call
works.
you, Lisa.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Thanks.
Would you like me to join the call, Pretty?
No,
Or
no, just to make sure that the link to the Google, I have a Google Jamboard, but I think if you get on the towns, it may be a slightly different link. So it's just the technical aspects of it that I'll be talking with Lisa. Is that okay,
oh,
Harry?
okay. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
It's not the content, it's, whether this will work technically. But it will be fun. People were pretty engaged in our meeting, and I'm quite excited that, 7 people and they all look great, very interested. I think I shared the link with Kay and with Ari. I hope you got that. And I can share it with the leadership group, or Kay can share it with you. Yeah. Any questions, or is that okay? The only other thing, if I can add, because Ari, Liz, and I also working on that self-assessment tool. Remember, we talked about it last time. Very quick update. We went through it yesterday, and we used like the police report as an example because we needed some product that we can talk from. And the tool right now has 5 areas. It's about, are you kind of planning the report in the open, transparency, what's participation, what's collaboration, is there some initiative that's a flagship initiative. The questions do need a little bit of rewording, and there are some things missing, so we need a little more time to rework it. And so we'll get it to you before the next meeting for your comments, and we can discuss it at the next meeting. Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Pretty and Ari.
Dale,
Great.
I have to
Yes,
go. I have a meeting to go, and I'm so sorry. I have to go. I didn't realize that it was almost 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I think we're wrapping up the meeting, actually.
Okay.
There is a question for additional topics, but I do believe it is very late. This is probably the latest meeting that we've had. So I'm willing to entertain a motion to close the meeting at this time, which I see hands popping up. Jillian, your motion is accepted. And Liz, I'm going to assume you're seconding the motion. And are there any objections?
No objections.
At this time, we'll close the meeting. I just want to acknowledge that we're going to have the leadership meeting on the 21st. I'll send out emails, of course, to the leadership group and also to the chairs and co-chairs of the work groups. And hopefully you guys can attend if you need to update or do anything else. And otherwise, we'll keep in touch by email until the next meeting in May. So see you guys then, and take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye,
Take care.
Thank you,
Bye.
Dale. Thank you.
Thank
Amy.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Paul, very much. Take care.
Bye.
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 Thanks all. Take care.